This has to be the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. So I feel like sharing it to remind everyone to stay safe and be cautious. This happened not too long ago. I matched with this guy on Tinder and went on a couple of dates with him. On the first 2 dates, we went for coffee on walks outside. I really liked him. He was friendly, good looking, etc., and thought we clicked. For the 3rd date, the guy suggested I should come over to his place to have some wine. I agreed because I felt safe and comfortable enough to do so at this point. So the time comes, I go over to his place and he pours me a glass of wine. Things seemed to go well. We joked around and enjoyed a nice talk. But after a while, I start feeling funny. Now luckily, I had already been roofied once before, so I immediately recognized the effects once they kicked in. I was extremely clever in this situation and pretended I was feeling fine. I told him as cheerfully and energetically as possible that I was going to quickly use the toilet, as it seemed like nothing was off. Once I was in the toilet, I locked the door and immediately called the police. I told them that I was drugged, locked in the toilet, that they needed to come get me out of here. Pretty soon after I passed out, I was woken up by the police, but I'm still very drugged, so kind of sliding in and out of consciousness. All I remember is they put a bag over my head as they came and carried me out of there. I was saved. A few days later, I was asked to come down to the police station to give my declaration of the events. After doing this, I asked whether they remember putting a bag over my head correctly, or if it was just imagined due to the drugs, or what was up with that. They tell me they indeed did put a bag over my head. They decided it would have been too traumatizing as they carried me out of there to see what he had prepared and set up for me in the living room. This sends shivers down my spine. The guy ended up in jail, and to this day, I don't know what he had in mind for me, but it's clear that it was a very messed up, incredibly scary situation that could have ended horribly. Please, please, please always let someone know when you plan on going on a Tinder date, even if you feel safe, even if it's not your first date. Always ask a friend to call and check up on you during and after to let someone know you're safe. I worked in a sushi restaurant all during college, and this attractive guy and his friend comes in during our dinner rush. I'm running around like crazy, but managed to give them good service, and they both tip extremely well. After the shift, I'm at home drinking beer and mindlessly swiping on Tinder, trying to recover from all the craziness of the night. And then the guy I saw at work pops up on my Tinder. He had a very distinctive face tattoo, and to be honest, he left a memorable tip. I swipe right on him and then pass out for the night. The next day, I wake up to find out that we matched, and he sent some pretty sweet messages. So we got to texting, and it turns out he's only in town for business. He asked me out to dinner at a super expensive nice restaurant, which caught me off guard, but through a mix of convincing myself and bad advice from my roommates, I agreed to meet later that night. He super weirdly insisted on picking me up, and I finally had to tell him I'd cancel if I couldn't drive myself to this date. He backs down, so we meet at this expensive French restaurant. He proceeds to order a $200 bottle of wine, lobster, etc., and just spends so much freaking money. Like with tip and everything, I'm sure the meal had to have been around $600. Conversation starts out normal, but as he drinks more, I find out he's married, but supposedly in an open relationship. I don't believe him, so he calls his wife right then and there and sends her my pics. She's apparently bi and into girls. I hear her tell him to invite me for a threesome at their home in Cancun. Red flags. Red flags everywhere. Once he's off the phone, I ask him how he gets all his money and affords this lifestyle. With no change of expression, he calmly tells me it's through a drug cartel, but he's got connections, yada yada, etc., and that it's all perfectly safe. I nope out and immediately try to leave. He follows me out to my car, tries to convince me to have this threesome, shows me pics of his wife, who is very attractive to be honest, and his Instagram, which proves everything he's told me. I'm just trying to leave, and he tells me I at least owe it to him to go back to his hotel room since he spent so much on dinner, then tries to force me to kiss him. I manage to get away, but at this point, I'm terrified he's going to try and follow me home. So I drive around for a while, then spend the night at my friend's place so he can't find out where I live. Plus, they had male roommates. I deleted Tinder that day with no regrets. Looking back, I feel like that might have been part of a human trafficking scam. Was that really his wife? Maybe just a one-off crazy dude. But it definitely could have been part of something much worse. I had an OkCupid account for a few years. I would occasionally get on there, mostly when drunk, and message people or check and see if I had messages. One day, this decent enough looking girl messaged me and we got to talking. It was just the usual get to know you kind of stuff, like what do you do for a living, what are your hobbies, etc. I told the girl that I worked night shift at a local Walmart, and at the time, it didn't seem like giving her this kind of info would backfire in any way. But I was wrong. We continued messaging for a few days, getting to know each other. She was a school teacher and was a bit older than me. Being that I had a minimum wage job, I didn't really see much of a future there between us, and our conversations were growing a bit stale. So me being the asshole that I am, decided the best course of action would be to just stop talking to her completely, instead of telling her I wasn't interested. A few days go by, and she messaged me a few times, but I did not reply. Then, I started to get messages that were a bit hostile, asking me why I wasn't talking to her, and why I didn't want to be her friend, and things like that. So I decided to continue ignoring her, like the good person that I am. A few more days go by, and then one night, at about 2 a.m. while working, a coworker comes up to me and says that some girl was asking for me. At the time, I didn't put two and two together, so I just shrugged it off. Then, the following few work nights, my coworker keeps telling me that this girl is coming in, looking for me. How she didn't find me by just walking around the store, I don't know. But I finally remember that I had told this girl where I work at. Then the next night she finds me. She had come in with a guy and confronts me about ignoring her on OkCupid. She wasn't being hostile or anything when she asked, so I just told her that I had been busy and hadn't been on it in a while. So awkwardly she said, "Well, okay, just message me when you get home." At this point, I was a bit freaked out, but I stuck to my ways and did not message her, hoping that she would just leave me alone. But of course, this only made things worse. She started showing up, looking for me on my days off, asking my coworkers what my schedule was, and things like that. The next time I had work, she was there at around 3 a.m. Again, with a guy that was different than the last time. And again, asking why I had not messaged her. But this time, she was a bit more hostile, saying, what kind of person does this to someone, and things like that. But I told her the same thing again, that I had been busy and had not gotten on the website in a while. And then, as always, I continued to ignore her messages. After a few times of hearing that she had shown up looking for me again, and me being afraid of getting stabbed to death by this crazy chick in the parking lot, it finally stopped. She stopped coming to my work and stopped messaging me. In the end, all my hard work and perseverance paid off, and I'm almost positive that she moved on to stalking someone new. I matched with someone on Tinder who was really cute in their pictures. I wouldn't say they were outright sexy, but they seemed pretty cute nonetheless. When we matched, it didn't take long for the conversation to turn into her saying, "You should come watch movies with me." I agreed, got the address, etc., and left. It was about a 15-minute drive. Once I arrived to the apartment complex, I messaged her that I had arrived. She said to come through the front door of the complex. When I approached the door, some lady opened the door for me. A very large and obese woman who looked like she hadn't showered in days. She was wearing pajama clothes at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. When she opened the door for me, I said, "Oh, thanks." And I just stood there, pulled out my phone, and I was about to text my Tinder date. The lady, as I'm pulling out my phone, says, "So how was the drive?" And I was like, not bad. I'm like, why is this lady trying to make conversation with me? And she said, "Oh, that's good. I figured it'd be easy for you to find the place." And I'm still kind of in denial and thinking, oh, maybe this is her friend or something, just getting the door for me. She eventually says, "You ready to head upstairs?" And I'm like, yeah, still hoping this was just her friend or something. We get into the apartment, which was littered with empty pizza boxes, empty 2-liter Coke bottles scattered everywhere, and dirty laundry everywhere. I'm starting to realize my mistake. Nobody else was in the apartment. This humongous lady was the Tinder date. I finally came to the conclusion that I have in fact been hardcore catfished. Being the nice guy that I was at the time, I didn't want to be rude and just suddenly leave. So I decided to stick around for a few minutes. After about 10 minutes, she said, "You want to go lay down?" And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm not tired. She responds with, "Well, we can do more than just lay down." And I was like, yeah, I know. I just haven't eaten lunch yet today, and I should probably go do that. But this was nice chatting. And then I left after that. I feel bad about it. I don't take pleasure in ditching someone so fast, but I was under the impression that I was meeting someone entirely different. Her Tinder pictures were not pictures of her at all. If they were, they had to have been professionally edited with a Photoshop level program or something.